Good evening. Hello. Another day, another stream, some music. So, since we completed the dialogue system, I think it is most appropriate to do the quest system next. So quest slash storyline slash primary content system, I guess. I've tried thinking about what needs to be done or what this system needs to be capable of during the day, but for some reason my thoughts just did not want to gather properly. I have a few thoughts, but not a lot of thoughts. So this is going to be another one of those, a similar stream to the one for the first one for the dialogue system, where I try to figure out what I want and what I need and how to get it. Do you understand what that means when budgies like rapidly shake their head up and down sometimes? I don't know what that is. It's really weird. Anyway, sorry, I'm already getting off track. It didn't take very long at all. Okay. So, I guess first I need to outline what I mean by quest or story system. And yeah. So let's think about standard RPGs and things like that, because, you know, those are most heavy on dialogue and quests and things like that. Adventure games as well, I suppose. Those are kind of pretty heavily related in that aspect. So typically you have a thing where you have a primary storyline, so a storyline, and then you have side quests. The storyline is typically divided up into multiple quests that follow one after the other. Sometimes you have multiple quests in parallel that you need to solve, but essentially it's just a sequence of different kinds of quests that you need to fulfill in order to reach the end of the story. And then at various points you can accept side quests, which are typically time sensitive, meaning that they can only be accepted and fulfilled at a certain point in the primary storyline. So during designated points in the primary storyline. This is, by the way, this is something you guys can really help me with by just thinking about the kinds of games you've played and how actually the story was delivered to you. So RPGs, adventure games, or even just purely story-based games like Ace Attorney and so forth, they all have a particular kind of system of how you navigate their story and how they, you know, what kinds of choices you can make and how the system presents these choices to you. So these side quests are typically time sensitive, they can only happen during designated points. They are typically manually initiated, meaning that the player talks to or finds something.
First game that comes to mind is Human Revolution.
Oh yeah, that's an interesting one, yeah. So player talks to someone or finds something that starts the quest. Not sure why I put quotes there. Quests, sequence, sometimes multiple in parallel. let's also make these bold, I guess, to highlight the titles a bit. Okay. What else do we have? Side quests are manually initiated. They usually have no relevance to the main story, so no, or self-contained. Usually bear no relevance to main story or each other. What else? Give worlds building so they usually give either world information, character information, or item rewards as, you know, incentive to do them. Right. What else? I feel like typically side quests are more branching than storyline quests because they're self-contained. You can more easily add branches and things in there. So, yeah. Launching due to self-contained nature, branching is more feasible. Do not directly. Okay. Fixed order.
Is this branching if you get the same goal through different means? Like the access to that drug party in Mankind Divided?
Yeah, for sure. Branching does not necessarily mean that, you know, you get different dialogue choices, but it just means there's multiple solutions to the same problem. Or there's different kinds of outcomes to different choices. So it's not entirely planned in advance what is going to happen. The player has some kind of agency, I guess. Or player. There we go. Let's put that in there. Player agency is the right term for it. Quests follow fixed pre-planned order to follow story. Or to serve story. What is this? Okay. I guess what are properties of quests themselves? Quest is typically some kind of one or more tasks. Quest describes goals or tasks to complete in order to finish quest. Quest completion. Quest may either complete automatically or need to hand it in by interacting with NPC item or something like that. What else? One time only. Man, my birds are raring tonight. What else? Let me think. Oh.
Repeatable quests could be a thing.
Yeah, I know, but typically repeatable quests are just for an item. And are just, you know... I guess the interesting quests are the one-time only ones. Quests can have also a sequence of tasks that need to be completed in order. Task sequence. Quest might have multiple tasks that need to be performed in sequence. And then quest might add or open up additional interactions with NPCs or items. So for instance, if you like start a quest and complete some kind of task of it, then it might add dialogue options to certain NPCs or make certain items inspectable or some things like that. I should add here. Right, so main story quests typically are initiated automatically, or you are sort of funneled into initiating them automatically in order to make the story progress and not leave you lost. Though again, like if you think about games like the early Fallout games, so Fallout 1 and 2, then you definitely don't have this. Or rather, you have an initial spark that tells you where to go, but from then on everything is completely free form, and you're not actually automatically funneled down a certain quest line or storyline. It's pretty much everything is side quest, which does lead to contributing to the primary story. So if you do an open world kind of thing, then that would fit a lot better. But I guess like standard
In
RPGs...
the original Fallout, the main quest was optional, but it was also timed.
Right. Yeah. I mean, even in Fallout 2, the part of it was timed, right? I think the finding the Garden of Eden kit, you need to do it in a certain time limit, though it's very gracious, if I remember. Anyway, so clearly these are not fixed rules or anything. You
Yeah,
can...
it's terrible.
You can, like, certain games clearly don't have some of these properties or have other ones. I'm trying to think about what would fit best for the game I'm trying to make right now. Or just gathering data on what is typically done, so that we can build a system that's flexible enough to, you know, represent everything. So I think in terms of more abstract means, what you typically have is, at the beginning of the game, you have some kind of something that triggers the main storyline quest, or beginning of game starts first storyline quest. Right. And this, when you start a quest, you get a number of tasks. So quest gives you a number of tasks to complete. Completion of tasks leads to starting side quests or further storyline quests. Okay. What else? Right. Starting quest or completing a task adds interactions to NPCs and items. Completing a task is very freeform. Freeform could be gathering X items, talking to NPCs, going to a place, etc. Inspecting item. Yeah. So what a task is actually about is extremely freeform. As far as I can tell, it's, you know, most games are very unrestricted in what a task can be. So for the system to know when a task is completed is kind of difficult. And that's been something that I've been wondering about how to do. Talking to NPCs, choosing a dialogue option, going to a place, inspect an item, etc. Right. So, Even a game that's almost entirely a dialogue system, like Ace Attorney, still has a form of a quest system in there when you're doing the investigation part. So when you're going around and visiting places, you have to go to a place, or talk to a certain person about a certain thing to start the next quote-unquote quest, which will then unlock further dialogue options until at some point you reach the end and it advances the storyline. Also, I just had a really weird case of a deja vu where I thought this entire conversation that I just made had happened already at some point in the past. I'm going insane.
I can't recall such conversation.
Yeah, I'm going crazy.
But I get those every now and then too.
Okay, so if we have this, is there anything that's missing? One or more tasks, that's fine. Task sequence. Yeah. So a quest needs to define. Let's see. Quest defines. I guess starting task, or defines a sequence. Does it want to do that? A quest should define a description, I guess, of the overall problem. And then it should define a starting task that's started automatically. Okay. Item reward on completion. Okay, what else? I'm very afraid of restricting things too much because they might exclude certain valid things. So I was beginning to type here defines sequence tasks, but doing so would make it very difficult to either define a sequence of tasks that allow you some choice, or would, not allow doing that, and that's not great. So I think what I'm going to do instead is define a task as description of minor problem. Trigger to completion of task, and further tasks to spawn on completion or none to better completing task completes quest. Or actually that can be determined automatically if there is no further tasks once the task is completed, so we don't need that. Interactions to add or remove from NPCs and items. I'm not sure why I'm capitalizing items. I guess a quest should also define when it's still valid. So, constraints on initiation. I'm not sure though whether I want this here. This is so either either I can define on the quest some kind of constraint which says that if this is not fulfilled then the quest is unavailable, or I can just make it so that the rest of the system manually sort of marks the quest as available or unavailable depending on when things happen. Now, the advantage of doing the latter is that it's much more... You're given a lot more control and it's a lot more convenient because you know exactly when to mark which quest as unavailable or available. But on the other hand, now this information is decoupled from the quest itself, meaning there's a discrepancy there that could become out of date. So I don't know which to do. I think I like the latter a bit better. Yeah. I guess the starting of a quest would also be an interaction that you have to do with an NPC, so completion of a task being able to add an interaction that initiates a quest would also be good. Or would be doable pretty easily. Oh my god, my birds. Thank you. What you thinking about?
I'm uncertain.
About what?
My mind started to wander. I ended up checking crossovers for films and games, and found that if spin-off crossover games could be considered canon with each other, eventually it turns out that all Nintendo games are part of the Shrek canon.
What? What do you mean? Right, so the problem to me is this and this. So, especially this. Hypothetically, let's make an example. Hypothetically, I could write a quest.
DreamWorks had this racing game with characters from Shrek and a few other films, making all those films of the Shrek canon. One of those had characters featured in a Nickelodeon Brawl knockoff fighting game. It included Rabbids, which connects to Mario, and that connection then goes to Smash.
Okay, whatever, man. Hypothetically, how would we define a quest? So I could say, let's say, save the caddy. And we have some kind of description. Save the poor caddy from the tree. The old lady is worried sick. Okay. And then we have a task. For instance, get a ladder. Finding a ladder would allow you to get up there easily. Okay. And then we could have like, I don't know. Start. Get a ladder. And also maybe start. Get an axe. Ache. Okay. So what else could I do? The trigger and the interactions will be the problem. I mean, I guess it could be arbitrary Lisp expression, so have ladder. This is dumb though, because now I'm making... I don't know. This is a bit too verbose, I feel like. Anyway, let's just finish the thing. I guess. I don't know. This is getting annoying already. I wonder how, you know, real games do this kind of stuff. Because managing the complexity of all these quests seems like a tremendous pain in the ass.
There are tools that are made for designing video game quest and storylines.
Like what? I remember a talk by the CD Projekt guys about their Red Engine tools for story stuff, and that was pretty impressive.
I don't remember their names. I just remember seeing multiple of the over the years and one of them looking good.
But yeah, it didn't really go into a lot of detail on how things came together. They had like a UI where you could plan things out in a graph fashion, sort of, but that was mostly for like directing cutscenes and dialogue, but not for actually planning out the entire quest lines and stuff. So I don't know. At least that's what I remember of the talk. Something like that. Meh. This is already getting out of line. I was gonna do a thing where you can have like interactions which are always dialogue options. So you would have them as a sub section. So for instance, grab cat, you know, and then you would have the stuff that we defined before. Something like that. I don't know. Hmm. So it would have to be... Guess I should do that here instead. I don't know, something like this, I guess. Ugh. So, hold on, this is not quite correct yet. So, I need to complete this and in the other one I need to complete this and that. So that both are despawned if either of these is completed. And then, if you have the cat, you have to return the cat. Yeah, that's fine. And then we need to, something like this, I guess. So, obviously, this entire thing is extremely reliant on these instructions that don't exist. Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering how you'll make those.
Yeah. I wonder myself. A lot of things are also not explicit in here. So, for instance, though I guess this is... For instance, in this, if you get the axe, you know, something else in the system needs to know how to get rid of the tree and how to deposit the cat safely. This only, you know, it doesn't tell you the game how to do that. That behavior needs to be elsewhere. Similarly, for, you know, depositing the ladder at at the tree so you can climb up it. That's not in here. So there's a lot of behavior in there, or implicitly in this, that needs to be coded elsewhere, which is fine. It would be insane to expect everything to fit in here. But it's definitely something to keep in mind. Keep in mind, Danny. Yeah. So, from this example, what I can gather, and from this as well, every kind of interactable, so an NPC or an item that you can look at or whatever, has a list of interactions, dialogues, or, you know, a list of dialogues that can be started, which are things like this, or stuff like that. And whenever the player goes up to interact with one of these, it looks up the list of interactions. If there's a multiple, it presents a choice. If there's only one, it initiates that automatically. And what actually happens with these interactions should be defined in the interaction itself. So in this case, like grab cat, you just move the cat into any inventory and the interaction would still be there, so we should do that as well. Remove. And I'll do that. Get rid of this. And then stash it. And yeah. I don't know. It's all extremely vague. Also, the way this is currently sort of written, because this is sort of an arbitrary predicate, the game system would just need to evaluate all current tasks whenever something happens, which is just extremely vague. Obviously, if you have a large system with a lot of tasks that could be in flight at the same time, it is not possible to check everything on every tick. So there would need to be some way of filtering out which events are usable or when to check for tasks. What is this? Yeah, but otherwise, I guess this works out. It's just a question of whether this is convenient enough, or whether there could be a format that would be more convenient. I mean, obviously, having the full title and everything is kind of a pain in the ass, but I'm not sure how else to do that. Need some way of identifying the tasks. But yeah, the way this is currently laid out, every quest would be its own sort of section, I guess, like this, with various subsections, each subsection denoting a task, and each subsection denoting a possible interaction that can happen as part of the quest.
I think this format would also allow things like triggering multiple quests at the same time, which is neat.
Yeah, that's what happens. Oh, well, multiple tasks, yeah, that's what happens up here. But I'm thinking there needs to be a different way of at least naming things in the very least. So you would have, I don't know.
How do you mark a task as failed?
That's an interesting question. Yeah, I didn't think about that one at all. Hmm. Yeah, it would have to have a... Well, there could be 3 states for a task. Tri-state. Which could be either... Or, no, it has 4 states. States. Unresolved. Completed. Failed. And... I guess, bypassed. So in case you have multiple options and you pick one of them, the other ones become irrelevant. So you can bypass them. So in this case, you would have, like, I guess, complete, but also bypass, get a ladder. And in this, you would have complete and also okay. I wonder if the default behavior should be to remove the interaction and then you have to, like, add a command to retain it or something. I don't know, maybe it could be an option here or something. Hold on, Sucky's asking something. What's tonight's movie? Barry Lyndon apparently is the movie. I mean, most of these instructions here could just be, you know, an eval of something like that. So it's not like I need to explicitly code all these. I've actually been thinking about a directive that's double bangs to do an eval even more shorter. Is that gonna be good enough? I don't know. I also wonder whether interactions should be, like, should designate what they're for directly. So, for instance, this would say it's for the cat, and then you would just say something like activate or spawn grab. And then it would automatically know that it needs to go to the cat. Or are there enough cases where it would be better to add the same interaction to multiple things? No, right? I'm trying to think of cases where it would be appropriate to have the exact same dialogue for multiple NPCs or items. And I'm failing to think of any. Uh... Oh man, it's only been an hour, huh? Jesus. This has felt like a year already. Ah, jeez. uh... I'm on the brink of ending the stream already because sorry about that. I just yeah, I can't think. And I'm not sure how much I'm going to get done just sitting here. Feel really bad about that though.
Well, could video games?
Feeling pretty tired. I don't know if I want a video game.
Thinking is hard when it doesn't work.
Yeah, I know. Why is fucking Emacs? God damn. One problem definitely with this current approach of very, very free-form kinds of completion triggers is that it's all too easy to have a completion condition that is too liberal, so meaning the player can break it. So for instance, in this case, it needs to be sure that this tree refers to the one and only tree that we care about in this. And in this case, we need to be sure that we have that one and only cat that we're talking about here. And in this case, we need to be sure that there's no other way for us to give this one and only cat away or put it somewhere that it's no longer in the inventory, because otherwise it's not gonna, you know. I guess a safer alternative would be to say here, like, complete get. But then we would also have to move this information into the dialogue part, which is not so great. I don't know. Lots of things I don't know about. Hello, Eudoxia. Good evening. Are you able to think? Can you think? Because I can't. I'm also out of water, so I'll be right back.
Good evening, Shin.
Gonna grab some peels and water. You know that feeling when you drink some water, but you still feel thirsty afterwards, and your throat just feels ever more dry the more water you drink? It's great. Okay.
What do you need to think about?
This here, quest system. Yeah. The problem that we're trying to, that we're trying to solve is how is like information regarding quests in a video game. So not necessarily even just things related to story, but generally just how is the advancement of the plot handled in a story-heavy game. And this could be either the main storyline or side quests or what have you. And what we've worked out so far is basically this. So at the beginning of the game, you start one first storyline quest to sort of get everything going. When a quest is started, it gives you a number of tasks to complete or objectives to fulfill. And completing one of those tasks or objectives can lead to further side quests or further main storyline quests that sort of branch out. And when you start a quest or complete a task, new interactions are added to NPCs and items, so you can, which are relevant to the task you're trying to fulfill. But the actual completion of criterion for a task is extremely freeform, so almost anything could lead to a task completion, or almost anything could be a task. And completing the task removes interactions again. And that's pretty much it. Anything that's more specific will immediately rule out a lot of valid gameplay systems or story systems.
That's interesting. It reminds me of this idea of games with a lattice-based completion system where you can statically prove there are no game dead ends.
Oh wow, alright. I don't think I'm gonna go for something like that. But that will be good to have indeed. So from then I try to enumerate what kind of, properties.
Yeah, it's excessively.
What kind of properties quests and tasks and intractable things like NPCs or items have. So the most general form for a quest is extremely liberal, meaning it just has a human readable description of what you need to do or what the quest is about, and some kind of task that gets everything going, and possibly some kind of reward that happens when you complete the quest. And then you have a task, which again has a short description, and then it has some kind of trigger that completes the task, and it can spawn further tasks in completion, and it has a list of interactions that it can add or remove from intractables, and 4 different states. So it can be either unresolved, which is the starting state, it can get completed, can be failed, or it can be bypassed in case there's multiple possible tasks to reach a solution. Then if you pick one of the tasks, the other ones get sort of bypassed and are no longer relevant to the quest. And finally you have the actual interactable, which only has a list of possible interactions, which are pieces of dialogue that can be started when you interact with that thing. And so next I try to do an example of what such a quest might look like in a hypothetical system. So this is a quest to save a cat from the tree, from atop a tree, and it starts out by presenting you 2 different tasks to get that cat. Either you grab a ladder and put it next to the tree, or you grab an axe and fell the tree. And so the completion conditions for these are either the ladder is at the tree, at which point a new quest is started, this one is completed and the other one is bypassed. And vice versa for grabbing an axe, which checks whether the tree no longer exists, I guess. Could also test for state, but whatever. And then you get the next task, which spawns an interaction on the cat, which is to grab it. And when the player has the cat in inventory, it spawns a new task and completes this one. And here, for the interaction, you have some brief dialogue, which then I guess, like, despawns this, or I don't know. I don't know yet what I want to name these things. Yeah, which is supposed to, you know, remove the interaction from the cat so you can't do it again, and then stash the cat in your inventory. And then you have, which then, once you've done that, you have this condition fulfilled, so return gets spawned, which spawns a new interaction with the lady. And once you no longer have the cat, it's completed, and once there's no more tasks to complete, the quest is complete. So that's kind of the idea, but I don't know if this is a good idea or if this system is like way too verbose or way too freeform or
Doesn't
whatever.
not have cats automatically finish the get task.
Why? Wait, where are you? Yes, but you spawn the return and you complete the get the cat task here. Right, and then this can only be reached if you have the cat, so after that we come into this, and then, yeah. So this is fine, but as you can see, it quickly becomes really difficult to figure out what the state space is and where possible interactions lie and how things flow. So I have no idea if this is a good idea. Obviously, this is extremely flexible, but it might be too not rigorous enough and thus too confusing to deal with. I don't know. An alternative way of dealing with this would be a much more visual way, which is to say a graph-based approach rather than a text-based approach. So let me pull up drama.io here. Move that to a new window. So the disadvantage of doing it with a graph is obviously that you need to build a graph tool, which is a lot more complicated than having a text interface. So, but what we could do here is say we have, let's translate this into a graph-based approach. So this entire document represents the save the caddy quest, I guess. So we might have like a text here that describes this, you know. What the fuck, man? Copy the right thing, you asshole. There we go. Fantastic. Alright. So we have a starting state, which is this, get a ladder. Okay. So we would have a description in here. And I guess an arrow. Designate this as a starting state. And then what happens, you get ladder and X. Wait. Hold on. Another one. Ah, fuck. Why you no copy? Oh my god. Fine. Okay. Whatever. Let's actually add a circle, maybe. you know, how this exactly looks isn't very important, since it's just a visualization of what the internal representation will be anyway. Okay. And then we have get the cat. Great, get that cat now. Something. And then we would have another one, which is return the cat to the owner. Fucking stop. Okay. And then obviously would have conditions encoded on the exits. So, something like this. What the fuck? What do we have?
Maybe something a finite state machine, where the current node defines the alphabet of input actions, where an action can be an interaction with an object or person, and state transition thus implicitly adds and removes possible interactions.
Hold on, I'll have to read that in a second. So I don't know. Yes. There we go. So this will be a state representation of, or, you know, a graph representation of the same thing we have here. Which makes things a lot more visible immediately, because you actually can, you know, see the flow of how things happen. Okay, let me read what you actually said. Maybe something like a finite state machine where the current node defines the alphabet of input actions, where an action can be an interaction with an object or person. State transition thus implicitly adds or removes possible interactions. You mean in terms of actually implementing this, or in terms of writing this? Because writing such a finite state machine sounds like a complete nightmare.
I mean as the formalism of quests.
Oh, you mean as a like a theoretical framework for that? Okay. Sure, I guess. I don't know. I'm not really interested in a formalism for it.
Maybe I should write this in a more long-form way and send you some diagrams. Well, also as the implementation.
Okay, sure, I will be interested in that. I feel like, though, navigating such a finite state machine is... I don't know if that... It sounds much more efficient to me to have the system where you have a list of interactions on an interactable object that can be, you know, traversed once you interact with something, and tasks just implicitly adding and removing from those lists, because then, you know, checking for what's available on where is absolutely trivial. And I guess you could still implement that with a finite state machine as well if you just make state transitions do that. But I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm having a hard time seeing it as a practical solution, I guess.
I will draw and get back to you.
Alright, sick. Thank you. So the advantage of having a graph visualizer like this is that I could still compile down to something like this. So it's not like this is, you know, something where you couldn't have something like this as well. It's more just that you can't easily get from this to this because the connections between the nodes here are extremely implicit, or, well, they are explicit, but they're hidden and are hard to decode, I guess, because they could be inside multiple levels of, you know, indirection here, and so the system would have to figure out how to exactly compile down the condition to something usable. I don't know. I'm liking this a lot more than this pure text-based approach. For, you know, obvious reasons. But yeah. Ugh. But again, this brings us back to the old problem of not having a good UI toolkit. Obviously, I could do this in a different toolkit as an external tool as well, if it compiles down to something that can be processed by the game. I just don't know. I can't decide.
Why you gotta be like this? Was trying to model sort of an invariant that would lead to the task failing and thus the quest failing.
Okay, never mind, I've thought about it some more and it's probably a dumb idea.
I don't know, man. It just, to me, it seems like it's not. It doesn't. I'm not sure what kind of worth you would get out of encoding it as a finite state machine. Because it seems like encoding it in that way would add more complexity than it removes.
Not much probably, except maybe demonstrating that a string of actions leads to a finished state.
I'm not sure it's capable of doing that. Because, again, the problem is that the conditions that lead to completion of a task are extremely freeform, and they kind of have to be because there's so many different conditions that could, be required to complete a task. So proving that it's possible to complete a task at all times is, I think, a problem that goes outside the domain of the quest system itself because it interacts with the rest of the game world, and there's a lot of game logic that's not going to be represented in the quest system, so it just doesn't have the necessary information to really make that guarantee. And if you want to have a guarantee that it's possible just within the quest system itself, then this is already enough guarantee. You see you have an outward state here, but that's not really that useful, is it? You can, of course, if you have something that's entirely self-contained, then you can start talking about proofs, which I'm sure is useful. There are some games that are entirely dialogue, narrative, branching path kind of based, where you only have text and choices, and there's no secondary kind of interactions that influence the quest system in any way, so you can do this kind of complete analysis. But in this, there's so much information you're just lacking that, yeah, I don't know how you would do that. I mean, I discussed this a bit earlier. I think you weren't here for this, but for instance, for these things to make any sense at all, we need to be able to ensure that this tree we're talking about is exactly this tree we mean up here and no other tree ever. And we need to be able to ensure that this cat is exactly this cat and no other cat. And we need to ensure that there's no other way to dispose of the cat than returning it to its owner, and so forth. So there's a lot of things in here that are required for it to work as expected, but they're not... You can't really represent them in the quest system itself. You need to have these guarantees implemented as part of the game systems that exists around it. So, yeah. Also, what is the fucking flowchart diagram symbol for a starting point? I keep forgetting all what these symbols mean. It's not an actor. What is it? It's not a diamond. I know that. Flowchart. What? None of these? What is this stuff? SysML. What? I don't even know what this stuff is.
I think it's a small circle.
Small circle, so like I have here, okay. I guessed correctly. Hurrah. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Why are you doing that? What the fuck? Why is it? Oh my god. There we go. Now I don't want to puke when looking at this. Alright. Yeah, so having a flowchart system would be nice. Nice. But I'm not too sure if that's possible. Another thing, like, you know, taking down a tree, the game system needs to implement dropping the cat somewhere, so you know, there's a lot of assumptions built in here. For this, obviously you need to have a ladder in the game, and you know. So if you kill the cat, I guess it fails, and that's fine. But then we need another... Whoops. Thing here. Something like that. Yeah. A flowchart would definitely help. Because, yeah, this is a mess. Okay. I do have a very, very generic library for implementing graphs for flowcharts. And I could build a visualizer for this purpose on top of that. So I guess tomorrow I'm gonna try to give this entire thing some more thought. Overnight and stuff. And then tomorrow I can start implementing the necessary nodes and things and whatevers in order to make this system a reality. And then we can see from there or something, I don't know. Whoa, stop. Oh my god, this is giving me pains. It's giving me agita. Why are you not connecting just straight? Fuck. Please. Oh my god. Just connect. Just do it. Please. Just go straight. Oh my god. Fuck. Holy shit. Okay, whatever, good enough. Yeah, okay, I don't really know what else to do. I was gonna stop the stream an hour ago. Yeah, it just... I'm having such a hard time with this because it feels like almost any specification beyond this is going to end up too restrictive. So, yeah. But not having more restriction makes me feel uncomfortable because there's too much that could be possible. Yeah, I don't know. God damn it. Oh, Jesus. Okay. Oh my god. Finally. Okay. Yeah, okay. I think I'm gonna call it here because I'm tired and I can't deal with this right now. Hopefully I can deal with this better tomorrow. So, yeah. Anyway, thanks a lot for sticking around, joining, and yeah, thanks for your thoughts and input on this. I tremendously appreciate it because I feel like I'm overlooking things right now. And yeah.
Good evening. Thank you for streaming.
Yeah. Have a good night, everybody.